We got some questions today from the team. Every week in our check-ins, we ask them what's an area or a question that they're curious about. That's gonna help them with their journey. So today, Harry's gonna pick the best ones, take it from them, and then we're gonna answer it here. Hopefully give you guys some value as well.
I would like to learn more about the psychology of reaching towards your goals. In the middle of the journey, you go backwards.
Yeah, actually, I've seen this. I know who asked that actually. Yeah, so
can you explain that?
So give context, this client, I think he's down like 20 pounds, or like 20 pounds, that's like 10 kilos or 11, 12 kilos. And he basically like hit a wall about halfway through, like 60, 70% into the program. And he basically just had a really hard time getting his momentum back. And I see this a lot with clients, and I've warned them about it multiple times. When things are going really well, we do this really weird thing where we let our foot off the gas and we start getting more complacent, because I think people tend to convince themselves that it's just gonna keep rolling in this smoothly if they just cruise. And then also, like, I don't know what it is. I just see it a lot. Like they wanna lose 20 kilos, they get to 15 and they've done it in a great way. They start eating out one meal here, 2 meals there, it becomes 3, 4, 5, 6, and all of a sudden they're stuck at the same 15 kilo loss for a few weeks at a time, like a few weeks now. So I think the psychology behind it is losing the same drive that they had before they started the journey, because the pain isn't as significant anymore. So someone who's 20 kilos overweight is no longer in the same pain as when they get to being only 5 kilos away from their goal. So I think it's really important to constantly reassess the target and really just be honest with yourself. Like, how close are you to your goal? And then setting new limits from there to keep pushing the momentum and putting your foot down on the gas and finding ways to keep it interesting. Because if you just keep doing the same thing, you'll still get to your goal, but there's a much greater likelihood that you'll eventually lose some sort of focus, especially with something like fitness. And so it's definitely a complacency thing. And also, like, you're just not the same person as you were a few months ago before you started. So you just have to revise the strategy and maybe change some things around and just get that focus going again, and just constantly being honest with yourself about it.
How long should I be resting between my sets? What is possible?
2 to 5 minutes. Yeah, 2 to 5 minutes, depending on the exercise. If you're doing like bicep curls, you probably don't need to be, I'll say 90 seconds, a minute and a half to 5 minutes. If you're doing heavy compounds like heavy front squats, heavy deadlifts, you want to give yourself enough rest so that you can exert as much, force and strength again as much as possible. So, doing a heavy set of back squats, it's very fatiguing. You need to give yourself time to recover between sets to hit the next set. Whereas if you're doing arms and it's an isolation movement, the muscle is much smaller, recovery is a lot quicker. So you can probably rest 2 minutes if you want to. Even smaller muscles like a lateral, like a side delt, you shouldn't be resting 5 minutes between sets.
Is it okay to have a week where the scale doesn't move? When should it be a concern?
Plateaus, yeah, it depends. A week is definitely not a concern. Fat loss, fat loss takes time to reflect in the scale. Just because the scale is not moving for a few days or even a week, it doesn't mean that you're not dropping body fat. The body just takes time to reflect it, which also takes time to reflect in the scale. Even during this cut right now, I'm stuck in a certain weight, of only a few hundred grams for about a week. And then the following week, I'll just shed off over 1 kilo. So that's what I mean. Like, just because things aren't moving via the scale doesn't mean it's a problem. As long as you're adhering to the plan, you're hitting your steps, you're hitting your training, you're hitting your nutrition, it will reflect as long as the plan's working. Now, let's say 2 to 3 weeks in, you've been 100% adherent. Now it's the time to be like, okay, this might be a bit of a plateau. Look at the physique, look at the measurements in terms of your waist and whatever else you measure, but also your body shape in the photos. If they're not improving, then it very well might be a plateau, and then now you make adjustments.
How does stress and sleep impact progress?
Stress and sleep are huge. So I think the biggest thing I've noticed over the years as a coach is it impacts someone's emotional regulation and also impacts their decision-making process. So I've found when someone is stressed and when someone is poor on sleep, they tend to make worse choices when it comes to their food. They tend to lose their focus and motivation a lot more on their habits. They break routine, and then eventually it snowballs into a bigger and bigger problem where they find it hard to get back on track. When it comes to training, for example, it affects someone's ability, like the perceived effort of doing the same things that they would have done if they were well rested and not as stressed is a lot higher. So they tend to think like, if I don't sleep well, I'm weaker, but in reality, it's just the perceived effort of the same load or the same performance gets a lot higher. And that can really mess with your head, because you're like, oh fuck, this is a shit session, I'm feeling weaker, drops your motivation. Now you're losing hope, and then it drags into the next session and the next, and then now you're in a slump with your training. So decision making is affected. Recovery's also being impacted as well if you're not sleeping correctly because of stress, and if you're so stressed that you're not sleeping correctly, it affects your recovery. Yeah, because if you're not sleeping properly, you're not giving your body the time it needs to repair, and also obviously being hyper stressed, it can affect your sleep quality, which also means you're not getting into the state of recovery either, and so it affects your performance. It does affect your ability to drop body fat. It can cause issues when it comes to, I guess, the way that you digest food, the way you absorb stuff as well. Like, there's a whole downstream ripple effect of just poor sleep and poor recovery from stress as well. So, massive. If you're someone that's constantly stressed, constantly sleeping poorly, that would be the first thing that we look at with you.
I think you already answered this one, but will the rate reduce weight change? Any expected plateau?
I think that's like, will the rate of loss change in a fat loss phase? Yeah, it probably will slow down at some point. It depends on how much body fat you need to lose. If you have 20 kilos, we can be pretty aggressive at the first part of the fat loss. Try to get to that a kilo a week to really kickstart the journey, basically. But naturally, your body will adjust and adapt, right? So when that happens, the rate of loss will slow down. Your current level of expenditure and your current level of expenditure and your current level of a deficit is not going to create the same amount of fat loss anymore, and so you just need to make tweaks. But yeah, the rate of loss, we want to aim to be as consistent as we can, but it will slow down most likely at some point, depending on how much you need to lose.
Is achieved. Is tracking macros the only solution to sustain results?
Cool. The things that you do in a fat loss phase with the calorie tracking, the macro tracking, weighing out your food, meal prepping, these are really skills and tools that you'll always be able to keep. And so when it comes to getting out of a diet, let's say you've lost 10, 15, 20, let's say you're in the best shape of your life. In order for you to get there, you will have changed so many things about your lifestyle over the 3, 4, 5, 6+ months that you've been doing it, that it now feels more normal to you and what you do on a day-to-day basis. And so you don't look at food the same way. You also don't eat the same way because you've changed as a person. The version of you who is 20 kilos lighter is very different because your mindset had to change. So when it comes to like getting out of a diet, and let's say you've increased your calories, you're on maintenance now, one, you have more calories to play with, which means you have more wiggle room. You can eat out and be able to still maintain your weight because it's no longer about dropping it. But then second, because you've changed as a person and you've gotten these results that are life-changing, I am very confident to say that you're not going to want to lose it. And so you are more conscious of your choices naturally. And it's not that you're forcing yourself to anymore, it's just who you are as a person, because that's where you're at in life now. But then when it comes to eating out, you will be able to start having more flexibility because you've improved your habits and you're more active. You also have more muscle. You also have the results you want. So again, your whole identity has changed now. And so you can eat out now, but you will make better choices. You won't order the 10 sides with your mates. You'll end up just being more responsible with your food, and you'll be so quick to get back on track the next day because that's your routine now, that if you do splurge one night with the wife or your partner or whoever you're eating out with, you have the skills and the tools you need to get back on track the next day. So it's really important that you understand when you go through this transformation, you're not expected to track calories forever. You're also not expected to be in a deficit forever, but you will learn tools and skills that will come in handy again down the line. And then that will make it way easier to maintain your weight.
Why did calorie tracking work for me in the
You didn't track calories correctly. Calorie tracking works. The only times someone says it doesn't work is because they actually didn't know how to track calories or they weren't accurate. The thing with stuff like MyFitnessPal and I don't know the other apps like Chronometer and stuff like that. Well, mainly MyFitnessPal, that's the one I use, but it's just a big database of what everyone uses to track different ingredients. So if some spastic puts in 200 grams of chicken breast as 1,000 calories and you're not aware of what the real values are, you punch that in and you put that into your diary, then you think you ate 1,000 calories, when in reality you only ate like 200 something. So the only reason why calorie tracking does not work is because you're not tracking accurately enough because you don't know how to. So the problem isn't calorie tracking, it's you need to learn the skill of cross-checking ingredients, you need to learn how to be more accurate, you need to learn how to plan your meals better, and I promise you, calorie tracking will work. I hope you guys found that helpful. That was a list of questions that were asked by our clients this week. So I'm sure if it's popped up in their mind, it's probably gonna pop up for you, and hopefully you're gonna find some value to help you along your journey. If you guys have any videos that you'd like to see that will help you, let us know in the comments below. You can DM me on Instagram as well at Coach Derek Tan.